right, we proceed. So from each part of these functions, you notice that we have plus or minus, plus or minus. Even here we need to have plus or minus somewhere there. So for you to know how to sketch this function which is here, you need to start by coming up with the general graph itself. Same applies to that one, even this one. So in this case, we'll start by trying by all means to sketch what is here. Then we'll try to sketch this in the next tutorial video. So what happens most of the times is, how do you sketch this? You need to know what reflection is and what translation is. So if a graph or a function is having these parts where we have x plus a certain number, which is a constant, then outside the function we have plus or minus that. What it means here is the number you get when you try to equate this to 0 and find the value of x will of course display the number of units a function will move in the x-axis. Then the number of function the graph will take, the number of steps the graph will take in the y-axis is being determined by the part which is on that given position. How do you know to say the function will move or the graph will move to the x-axis in the negative side or positive side? Is when you get the value of x here. So if you say, let's say maybe this is x minus a, meaning that you have to equate x minus a to 0 and find the value of x. In this case, we're going to get positive a. If you get the value of x as positive a, meaning that the entire graph has to move in the x-axis to the right hand side, the number of units has to be identified based on the number which is here. In y-axis, you notice that, or before I come to y-axis, what if this was to be x plus a equal to 0, then x has to be equal to negative a, meaning that your graph was supposed to move in the x-axis to the left hand side from the point of origin. It has to move to the left hand side. The number of units will be determined by the value of a. Same applies if you come to k. How many units are going to move in y-axis? Since we said k determines the number of units you are supposed to take in the y-axis. So this is determined based on the sign it has. If k is positive, the graph will go upwards. So positive k simply means your graph has to move upwards depending on the number of units you have on the part of k. If you have negative k there, your graph will go downwards in the y-axis depending on the number of units that you are also having on the part of the k itself. For instance, we have a graph which is going to be in this format. There definitely the arrangement is the same. When you equate this to 0 and get a value of x, then whatever number of units you get, it's supposed to be a value of x. We're going to move in the x-axis. So the procedure here and the procedure there is just the same. All what you need to do is to know how to sketch this and that generally using the general equation or the general graph to say. Okay, so we need to also understand how these signs affects the graph, because it is because of that sign or these same signs that will cause a graph reflect or translate itself over the y or rather the x-axis respectively. Thank you. So let's try to go in the next video where we explain some examples as to what these same signs means and how the x part of each and every function affects the graph itself. Try to subscribe, share, leave a comment if this makes sense to you. Thank you.